A Rabbinic Anthology, selected by C.G. Montefiore and H.Loewe. Remember that at the end of Herbert Lowe's introduction, I have appended the part that explains the abbreviations. 1026, Sifra, Deuteronomy, Shoftim, section 144, folio 103a. Thou shalt not take a bribe, Deuteronomy 16:19, obviously not to acquit the guilty or condemn the innocent, but not even to acquit the innocent or condemn the guilty. Sifra, Deuteronomy, Shoftim, section 144, folio 103a. 1027 ABRN, verse 1, 1022a, TB San 8a. Let a case about a small matter be as important to you as a case about a big matter. A case in which a penny is involved is as important as a case in which £100 is involved, or 100 lira. I don't remember all my foreign money symbols. ABRN, verse 1, 1022a, TB San 8a. Because I don't think I've ever needed to use them, right? For the judge's duty to keep his colleague's opinion secret, see 1038. 1028, Sifra 89a, in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. Leviticus 19:15. You must not say, you must not let one litigant speak as much as he wants, and then say to the other, shorten thy speech. You must not let one stand and the other sit. Sifra 89a. 1029, Sifra 89a. You must not say, when you are acting as judge, this defendant is rich or of noble birth. I will not put him to shame or look on with indifference at his disgrace. Much less will I personally be the cause of his dishonor, for it says, thou shalt not honor the mighty. Leviticus 19:15. Sifra 89a, 1030, Sifra 89a, thou shalt not respect the person of the poor. Leviticus 19:15, when a poor man is one of the parties, you must not say, if you are a judge, this is a poor man, and I and the rich man, the other in the suit, are bound to support him, so I will acquit him, in order that he may be supported as an innocent man, for it says, thou shalt not favor the poor. Sifra 89a. 1031, Sifra 88d, finish. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Leviticus 19:15. A judge who perverts justice is called unrighteous, hateful, abominable, a cursed thing, and abhorred. These terms, as well as the consequences which follow, are all derived from biblical quotations. Moreover, he is the cause of 5 misfortunes. He defiles the land, profanes the name of God, causes the Shekinah to depart, Israel to fall by the sword, and to be exiled from their land. Sifra 88d, finish. Now you can make the argument that biblically Israel's different from even ancestry, and definitely separate from those who sort of came up with a different path other than the prophetic path. 1032, Sifra 90b, R. Akiba said that a court which has pronounced a sentence of death should taste nothing all that day, for it says, "Ye shall not eat anything with the blood," Leviticus 19:26, Sifra 90b, 1033, Sifra Deuteronomy, Shoftim, section 190, folio 103b. Then both the men shall stand before the Lord, Deuteronomy 19:17. They may think that it is before flesh and blood that they are standing, but it is before God, Sifra Deuteronomy, Shoftim, section 190, folio 109b. The naive, frank particularism of the rabbis is presented here in a pleasant combination. 1034, Deuteronomy R, Shoftim 5:7. It is written, "Judges shalt thou make thee in all thy gates." Deuteronomy 16:18. R. Levy said, "The matter is like a king who had many sons, and he loved the youngest more than all the others, and he had a garden which he loved more than all his other possessions. So he said, I will give the garden which I love more than all the rest of what I have to the son whom I love more than all my other sons." So God says, "Of all the peoples I have created, I love only Israel, as it is said, because, AV, as when, Israel was young, I loved him," Hosea 11:1. "And of all things that I have created, I love only justice, as it is said, I, the Lord, love justice," Isaiah 61:8. Remember, instead of Lord, God, a suburban noun, increasing existence, establishing established. "So I will give the thing which I love to the people whom I love." Words left out. God says to the Israelites, "By the merit which you win in maintaining justice, I am exalted, as it is said, I, the Lord, am exalted by justice," Isaiah 5:16. "And if you exalt me by justice, then I execute righteousness, and let my holiness dwell among you. As it is said, the holy God is sanctified by righteousness," Isaiah 5:16. "And if you keep both righteousness and justice, I will redeem you with a perfect redemption. As it is said, keep justice and do righteousness, for then will my salvation be near to come." Isaiah 56:1. Deuteronomy R, Shoftim 5:7. 1035, Midrash Psalm on 82:1, 184b, section 1. The Midrash quotes the fine words in Deuteronomy 1:17, "For the judgment is God's," and the fine words in 2 Chronicles 19:6, "For ye judge not for man, but for the Lord, and he it is who is with you in the judgment." And continues, "Let not the judges say, we sit by ourselves in court, for God says to them, know that I sit with you, and if you pervert justice, you pervert me." Midrash Psalm on 82:1, 184b, section 1, 1036. Midrash Psalm on 82:2, 185a, initial section 2. "Defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy." Psalm 82:3. It does not say have pity on, but do justice to. Give a righteous judgment, not because he is an orphan or poor, shall you say, we will give him what belongs to the rich. For the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. And if you take unjustly from the rich in judgment, and give it to the poor, you rob me, says God. For if you give him what is mine, for all the earth is mine, and I have appointed him to be rich, and you take what is his." Midrash Psalm on 82:2, 185a, initial section 2. And if there's fair wage and There's no making money from usury or any other unlawful means. They're paying their alms due, their tax to the government, all that sort of stuff. It's just wrong to be all communist about it or socialist about it. 1037 ABRN verse 2 2022A, see selection 1044, which we'll probably get to in this program. Simeon B. Shathach said, "When you are judging, and there come before you two men, of whom one is rich and the other poor, do not say, the poor man's words are to be believed, but not the rich man's. But just as you listen to the words of the poor man, so listen to the words of the rich man. For it is said, ye shall not respect persons in judgment." Deuteronomy 117, ABRN, verse 2, 22A, see 1044 of our selections, or just listen and read in order. 1038, San 31A, see selection 1027. After a trial has been concluded, one of the judges, on leaving the court, must not say, "I acquitted him. My colleagues convicted him. But what can I do? They outvoted me." Of such a one it is written, "Thou shalt not go about as a talebearer among thy people." And he that goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets. Leviticus 19:16, Proverbs 11:13, Psalm 31a, see selection 1027. A similar argument is used by R. Nehemiah in Sifra 89a, 1039, Sifra 88d, see 1143 of our selections. The wages of a hireling shall not abide with thee till the morning. Leviticus 19:13. So too in regard to the hire of animals, or of utensils, or of fields, so too a man breaks the law if he withholds the hire, even if the hireling has not come to him to ask for his wages. For it says, with thee, a wage earner engaged for the day must be given pay for the following night. One engaged for the night for the following day. Sifra 88d, see 1043, 1040. TJ San 1, Section 1, Folio 18A, line 40. In a lawsuit you stand before God. R. Akiba, when men came with a case before him, said, "Know before whom you stand, not before me, Akiba, but before the Creator of the world." TJ San 1, Section 1, Folio 18A, line 40. Justice is of God. Let both judges and witnesses realize this. 1041, T. San 19, Z, page 416, initial, Professor Danby's translation, page 30. The judges should know whom they are judging and before whom they are judging, and who he is who is judging with them, and the witnesses should know against whom they are testifying, and with whom they are testifying, and with whom he is who bears testimony with them, as it is written, "Then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord." And also it is written, "God stands in the congregation of God, and in the midst of judges he judges." So again it is said concerning Jehoshaphat, "Consider what ye do, for ye judge not for man, but for God." 2 Chronicles 19:6. And lest a judge should say, "Why do I take this trouble? Has it not been said, He is with you in the matter of judgment?" Thy concern is only with what thine eyes see. T. Sound 19Z, page 416. Professor Danby's translation, page 30. 1042, Sand 7a, finish. A judge who gives true verdict causes the Shekinah to dwell in Israel. Words left out. A judge must regard himself as if a sword lay between his thighs and as if hell were open beneath him. Sand 7a, finish. 1043, Sefer Deuteronomy, Devarim, section 9, folio 67a, H, page 17. God does not punish the unjust judge by a money penalty. God exacts his life. A human judge may make an unjust judgment about a little money, but God demands his life, even as it is said, oppress not the needy in the gate, for the Lord will plead their cause, and will despoil of life those that despoil them. Proverbs 22, verses 22 and 23, Sefer Deuteronomy, Devarim, section 9, folio 67a, H, page 17, 1044, Devarim, section 17, folio 68b, finished to 69a, H, page 27, finished 28, C, selection 1037. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, Deuteronomy 1:17. This refers to the man who has to appoint judges. Such a one must not say, this man is beautiful or strong or my relation, or has once lent me money, or knows many languages. I will appoint him as judge. Then he may acquit the guilty and condemn the innocent, not because the man is innocent or guilty, but because he, the judge, is ignorant. Yet God will account it to him as if he had respected persons in his judgments. You shall hear the small as well as the great. You must not say, because this man is poor and that man is rich, and because the rich man is commanded to sustain the poor, therefore I will acquit the poor man, with the result that he will be helped as if he were innocent. Again, you must not say, why should I injure the honor of this man for the sake of a small sum of money? I will acquit him, and afterwards, out of court, I will say to him, give it to the poor man, for you owe it to him. Sefer Deuteronomy, Devarim, section 17, folio 68b, finished to 69a, initial H, 27, finished 28, C, selection 1037. 1045, T, Sand 14, Z, page 415, line 19, Professor Danby's translation, page 28. When judgment has been given in a case justifying him who was in the right and condemning him who was in the wrong, if it be a poor man who has been condemned, the judge may afterwards give him support out of his own pocket. He is thus found acting with charity to the one and with justice to the other. T. Sand 14, Z, page 415, line 19, Professor Danby's translation, page 28. 1046, T.J. Bear 1, section 1, folio 4b, line 52. God said to David, when thy days are fulfilled, 2 Samuel 7:12, that is, thy days shall not be wanting. It is Solomon indeed who shall build the temple in which the sacrifices shall be offered. But if for justice and righteousness, which you practice, to sacrifice, even as it says, to do justice and judgment is more acceptable to God than sacrifices. Proverbs 21:3. T.J. Bear 1, section 1, folio 4b, line 52. 1047, Midrash Psalm 19:2, 116b, section 2. The rabbis noticed that the word Yahweh, which is mistranslated as the Lord, occurs 18 times in Psalm 29. And so, they make each occasion correspond with one of the 18 benedictions. The Lord breaks the cedars, verse 5, corresponds with the blessing of the years. For God breaks those who raise prices, speculating on a coming scarcity, and make the weight small, and the rich who were at ease, the idle rich, who are like cedars, and he blesses his word and brings cheapness to the world and breaks the staff of iniquity. Midrash Psalm on 29:2, 116b, section 2, 1048, Deuteronomy, Shoftim 5:6, 1037. It is written, Thou shalt not respect persons, Deuteronomy 16:19. R. Judah B. Eli said, I have heard that if a judge desires that the parties to a suit should be seated, he may allow them to be so, but one of the two parties to a suit must not sit and the other stand. R. Elazar said, if you realize at once that one man is in the right, do not show him a favorable countenance, but he should say, he intended from the first to give the verdict in my favor. R. Samuel said, if you realize at once that one of them is in the wrong, show him a favorable countenance, lest he say he intended from the first to condemn me. Deuteronomy R. Shoftim 5:6, 1037. $1,049, Sab 139a, initial, R. Joseph B. Elisha said, if there is a generation upon whom many calamities fall, go and investigate the judges in Israel, for all the punishments which befall the world are due only to Israel's evil judges. God will not let his Shekinah rest upon Israel till the wicked judges and rulers are removed from Israel. Sab 139a, initial, 1050, Tunch Noach, section 18, folio 23b, finish, C selection 402, or just listen to these programs in order. God came down to see the town of Babel, Genesis 11:5, but did he need to come down? Is not all patent and revealed to him who knows what is in the darkness and with whom light dwells? Daniel 2:22. The answer is that God did this as a lesson to mankind, not to pass sentence, yea, even not to utter a word on hearsay, but to look with their own eyes. Tunch Noach, section 18, folio 23b, finish, C selection 402, 1051, Bab B 89a, Cohen et, page 241, 242. Whence it is that we may not give exact weight in a place where the practice is to give overweight and vice versa, the text declares a perfect weight, and whence it is that in a place where the practice is to give overweight, if the seller says, I will give exact weight, but I will reduce the price, or in a place where the practice is to give exact weight, if the seller says, I will give overweight, but I will increase the price, he is not allowed to do so. The text declares a perfect and just weight. Deuteronomy 25:15, Bab B 89a, Cohen et, page 241, 242. Local custom must be observed. One has to remember that the rabbis were, by their very professions and office, judges rather than clergymen, and therefore it is not surprising that there are many stories about their work as judges and about their solicitude for impartiality and fairness. 1052, Keth 105b. The rabbis say, Thou shalt not take a bribe. This need not be bribery in money. Bribery indeed is also forbidden. Thus our Samuel was getting on to a ferry. A man came and gave him a hand. When our Samuel asked him what he was there for, he replied, I have a lawsuit. Then Samuel said, I am forbidden to be your judge. Keth 105b, 1053, Keth 105b. R. Papa said, a man will not give just judgments to those whom he hates, or to those whom he loves. He does not see the wrongdoing of those he loves, or the just case of those whom he hates. Keth 105b. We need not take the word hate too literally. For love, put like, and for hate, dislike, and the rendering would be more accurate. And, well, the thing about local custom must be observed. Well, certainly the local laws, but I don't know about local custom. 1054, Keth 105b. A man rented the garden of R. Ishmael. This man used to bring him every Friday a basket of fruit. On one occasion he brought it on Thursday, and when the rabbi asked him why, he replied, I have a lawsuit, and I thought that while I was on my way here, I would bring the fruit to you. The rabbi would not accept them, and said to him, I am disqualified from being your judge. He appointed 2 other rabbis to judge the case. He walked up and down while the case was on, and thought, if the man wished, he could bring forward such and such arguments. And he said, may those who take bribes perish. If I, who did not take a bribe, have had these thoughts, how much worse would have been the thoughts of those who had taken a bribe. Keth 105b. Now, foreign lobbyists and corporate lobbyists, shouldn't be allowed. It should be science and law. That should be the only thing considered, not the groups coming forward to beg you one way or another, and they're allowed to contribute to your campaign. That's bribes. 1055, TJ Bab B2, section 13, folio 13C, line 37. R. Jonathan was a righteous judge. There was a Roman whose house and land adjoined that of R. Jonathan. A tree belonging to R. Jonathan hung over the land of the Roman. One day there came before him a case of this kind. He said, come back tomorrow morning. The Roman said, because of me he did not pronounce his verdict. Tomorrow I will neglect my own affairs, and I will see what sentence he pronounces. If he judges others and not himself, he is no true judge. At nightfall, R. Jonathan sent for his carpenter and said to him, go, cut down that part of my tree which overhangs the land of the Roman. The next day the suitor came early to R. Jonathan, and the rabbi said to him, go and cut down that part of your tree which overhangs the other man's land. The Roman said, but how about your tree? He replied, go and look at my tree in its relation to your land. He went and saw and said, blessed be the God of the Jews. One day a female litigant brought with her some figs as a gift of honor to R. Jonathan. He said to her, I request that if you brought these figs uncovered, you take them away uncovered, and if you brought them covered up, you take them away covered up, so that none may say that it was money which she gave to him, but it was figs which he gave to her. TJ Bab B2 13, folio 13C, line 37. 1056, Bab B 60A, finish 60B. R. Idnai had a tree, branches of which leaned over the public way, and another man had a similar tree. Then the people came to the other man and told him to remove it. He came to R. Idnai, who said to him, go away now, but come again tomorrow. During the night, the rabbi had his own tree cut down. When the man came again, R. Idnai said, cut down your tree. Then the man said, you have a similar tree. Then R. Idnai said, go and look. If my tree is not cut down, do not cut yours down. Why did R. Idnai change his mind? Before he thought that the people liked the tree because they could sit in its shade. But when he found that they disliked the tree, He cut the tree down, his tree down. Why did he not say to the man, you cut yours down, and then I will cut mine down? Because of a teaching of Resh Lakish, who said, first clean yourself, and then clean others. As it is also said, remove the burrs from yourself before you remove them from others. TJ Ta'an 2, Section 1, Polio 65A, line 75, RT 146, Bab B 60A, finished to 60B, 1057, TJ Bab M 6, Section 8, Folio 11A, line 51, a potter delivered some pots to a carrier who broke them. He took away his cloak. He went to R. Joseph, who said, walk in the way of the good. Proverbs 2:20. So the potter went and returned the cloak to the man. Then R. Joseph said to the potter, did you pay the man his hire? He said, no. Then, said the rabbi, keep the paths of the righteous. Proverbs 2:20. So the potter went and gave the man his hire. TJ Bab M 6, Section 8, Folio 11A, line 51, 1058, Tanch Yitro, Section 2, Folio 121A. Jethro told Moses to appoint men of truth, hating covetousness. Exodus 18:21. What does this mean? Men who insisted upon true justice and who hated even their own wealth. How much more the wealth of others? Such a one would say, even though you burn my standing crops, even though you cut down my vineyard, nonetheless I will judge you truly. Tanch Yitro, Section 2, Folio 121A. Judges, like all other officers and rulers, must regard themselves as the servants of the community. So, true chivalry. Debarim, Section 16, Folio 60B, RT, page 300, H, 26, 144. When R. Gamaliel II appointed R. Johanan B. Nuri and R. Eliezer B. Chisma to be judges, and the disciples did not pay them due regard. They, in dungeon, sat down among the disciples instead of in the seats appointed for officers. When R. Gamaliel entered the college and saw them, he said, you have let the community know that you seek to exercise rule over the community. Before your appointment, you were independent, but from henceforward, you are servants of and subjected to the community. Sifra Deuteronomy, Debarim, Section 16, Folio 68B, RT, page 300, H, page 26, C, selection 944. 1060. Bab M83A. Some wine carriers for Rabba B. Bar Chana, who was a vintner, broke a cask of his wine. He took away their cloaks. They came and told this to Rab, who said to Rabbah, give them back their cloaks. He said, is this the law? He replied, yes, for it says that thou mayest walk in the way of good men. Then he gave them back their cloaks. Then they said to Rab, we are poor and have toiled all day, and we are hungry and have nothing. Then Rab said to Rabbah, give them their hire. He said, is this the law? He replied, yes, for it says, keep the paths of the righteous. Proverbs 2:20. Bab M 83A. It may be a good thing to settle a case out of court. Now, maybe that's too far of a requirement as an interpretation of that for the previous one. But certainly, you don't take away from people what they need, maybe you garnish their wages or say, over time you can pay me back or something, would be more universally applicable response, right? The quotation is valuable as showing how any part of the scripture was regarded as Torah. See selection 428. 1061, T.J. San 1, section 1, folio 18b, line 19. R. Joshua B. Karcha said that it may be positively right to arrange an equitable settlement between two parties, as it is said, judge truth and the judgment of peace, Zechariah 8:16 RVM. The meaning is, wherever there is strict truth, there cannot be peaceful judgment. Wherever there is peaceful judgment, there cannot be strict truth. How can one combine both? Only by an equitable settlement, satisfying both parties. T.J. Sun 1, section 1, folio 18b, line 19. The Tosefta gives the last passage as well, and it adds 1062, T. San 1.3, Z, page 415, line 17, Professor Danby's translation, page 28. It is written of David. Remember, it's the W sound in tonic. And David acted with judgment and charity to all his people. 2 Samuel 8:15, charity, literally righteousness. Tzedakah, but here used in its latter rabbinic sense of almsgiving or charity. And is it not the case that wherever there is judgment, there is not charity, and where there is charity, there is no judgment? Then what is the judgment wherein is charity? This can only be arbitration. T. Sen 1.3, Z 415, line 17, Professor Danby's translation, page 28. There is thus sometimes a justice which is higher than the letter of the law. The rabbis reached the conception of equity, though they had no one single word for it. Neither meshurim nor pesherah is the exact equivalent of equity. (1063) Bab M 30b 88a finish. R. Johanan said, Jerusalem was destroyed only because they judged in it by the letter of the Torah. What should they have judged by an arbitrary law? Say, rather they stuck to the strict letter of the Torah and did not advance to equity. Well, they didn't do extra to make up for what they're lacking, probably, right? Why were the shops of Bethany, see Neubauer Geography, page 150, destroyed 3 years before Jerusalem was destroyed, because the shopkeepers stuck to the mere letter of the law. For Shurat Hadin, C. 505, Bab M 30b 88a finish. 1064. If a man knows evidence favorable to his fellow, but withholds it, he is not legally liable to compensate his fellow, but heaven will not pardon him until he does so. So, prosecuting lawyers, right? T. Sheb 32 Z, page 449, line 7. Because it's not the legal requirement, but it's what is right, that the prosecuting attorney is supposed to make the case for the innocents. If there's evidence, they're supposed to make sure that that's pointed out. That's not their job in any country, I don't think, but From justice to honesty, the rabbinical writings have several stock stories often repeated about the honesty of certain rabbis. They are especially fond of stories of honesty shown to the Gentiles, bringing glory to Israel's God. 1065. TJ Bab M2, section 5, 8c, line 21. See Deuteronomy R. Aqab 3, 2. Is that Jacob or I'm not sure what word there's some Greek lettering with some of this, but there's not Hebrew, so. Simeon B. Shathach was occupied with preparing flax. His disciples said to him, Rabbi, desist. We will buy you a donkey, and you will not have to work so hard. They went and bought a donkey from an Arab, and a pearl was found on it. They came to him and said, From now on, you need not work any more. He said, Why? They said, We bought you a donkey from an Arab, and a pearl was found on it. He said to them, Does its owner know of it? They said, No. He said to them, Go and give it back to him. They said, But did not our Huna, in the name of Rob, report that even according to him who said that no profit may be made by a third party from that which is stolen from a heathen? Yet all the world agrees that if you find something which belonged to a heathen, you may keep it. He said, Do you think that Simon B. Shathach is a barbarian? No, he would prefer to hear the Arab say, Blessed be the God of the Jews, than to possess all the riches of the world. It is also proved from the story of our Chanina that lost property should be restored for the sake of the sanctification of the name. For once, some aged rabbis bought a heap of corn, they mean grain, from some soldiers, and they found in it a bundle of denarii. And they returned it to the soldiers, who said, Blessed be the God of the Jews. TJ Bab M2 section 5 8c line 21. See Deuteronomy R Aqab 3:3. And remember, this is before the revelation of the Quran that we're referring to, right? But they're just assuming somebody's a heathen or a pagan or something because they're of a different tribe. That's just not right. And Arabs, of course, are a Semitic people. So they're pretty much probably not going to be able to tell the difference with them physically, except, maybe they don't wear blue thread or something, right? Or, back in the day they didn't, 1066 Deuteronomy R Aqab 3:3, see the note to 120. It is written in Deuteronomy 7:9, the faithful God, the rabbis say, from the faithfulness of flesh and blood you can conceive the faithfulness of God. Our Phinehas B. Jair dwelt in a city of the south, and some men came thither to earn their living. They had 2 measures of barley, which they deposited with him, but when they left, they forgot them. So our Phinehas sowed them each year, brought the produce to the threshing floor, and collected it. After 7 years, the men came again to claim their barley. Our Phinehas recognized them at once and said, Come and take your store. Thus, from the fidelity of man, you may conceive the greater fidelity of God. Deuteronomy R, Aqab 3:3, see the note to 120. 1067, TJ Bab M2, section 5, folio 8c, line 34. Abba Osha Yah, a laundryman, found some precious jewels in the linen which a queen had given him to wash. He gave them back to her. She said, "They are yours. I have many others of more value." He said, Our law orders us to return what we have found." She said, "Blessed be the God of the Jews." T.J. Bab, M2, Section 5, Folio 8C, line 34. Now, clothes being washed, that's one thing, but the sold goods, even that, it's like, if it wasn't intended to be part of the sale, something accidentally put in, that's, one probably should say something, right? In H.L.'s note, the text does not state that he was a laundryman, but see the note in the edition of Quotation. He is called Ish Turia, or Treya, a man of Turia. According to Neubauer, page 267, Turia was one of the 2 villages in the neighborhood of Carmel. And that's H.L.'s note. Well, if that was the task he was performing, he was a laundryman for the time, right? 1068, ton DBL, page 74, finished to 75 initial. A man said to me, "Rabbi, once I sold some dates to a Gentile, and I measured them out to him falsely in a dark room. He said to me, 'You alone and God who is in heaven are aware of what you measure me.' I gave him 3 se'ah of dates, less than his due. With the price of the dates, I bought a jug of oil, which I placed in the spot where I had sold the dates to the Gentile. The jug broke, and the oil was spilt and lost. I said to him, 'My son,' it says, 'thou shalt not oppress thy neighbor. Now thy neighbor is as thy brother, and thy brother is as thy neighbor.' Hence you learnt that to rob a Gentile is robbery." Leviticus 25, 14, and 17. 10 DBL, page 74, finished to 75 initial. So even the Christians that are a victim of the 1948 terrorist state and the movement before that, and after that, whatever, taking from them and kidnapping them and stuff is, it may be legal for the soldiers and settlers, but, still not right, even though they're, a true goyim, polytheist, one who turned their back on God, that sort of thing. The word for neighbor is ri'ah. It is clearly used in a general sense and is not limited to the Israelites. See selection 456 and 537. 1069, T.J. Dem, 3, section 2, folio 23b, line 70. R. Elazar leant on the arm of R. Simeon B. Kahana and said to him, as they passed a vineyard, "Bring me a chip of wood for me to pick my teeth." Then he changed his mind and said, "Do not bring it me, for if everybody went and took a chip, the man's hedge would be destroyed." So too R. Haggai supported R. Zerah, and a man passed with a load of faggots, bundles of sticks. R. Zerah said, "Bring me a chip to clean my teeth." Then he changed his mind and said, "Do not do so, for if everybody took a chip, the man's load would disappear." R. Zerah was not really so exceedingly pious or scrupulous, but he wanted to warn people to observe the commandments of God. The last 6 words of the original are very obscure. T.J. Dem, 3, section 2, folio 23b, line 70. 1070, Arud 53b, Abraham's Studies 212. R. Joshua B. Hananiah said, "I was once walking along, and there was a path crossing a field, and I was entering it. A little girl called out to me, 'Rabbi, this is a field,' i.e., no right of way. I said, There is a trodden path, she said. It is robbers like you who have made it a path. Arab 53b, Abraham's Studies 212. Sincerity, honesty, strict integrity, and truthfulness are often praised. Some of the sayings reflect actual life. 1071, Sifra 91b, see selection 1082. After the laws about just weights and measures, the words come, I am the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. God says, I brought you out on condition that you should receive the commandments about just weights and measures. He who accepts them accepts the exodus from Egypt. He who denies them denies the exodus from Egypt. Sifra 91b, see 1082 of our selections. Denies the exodus may be taken to mean denies the element of the overruling divine providence in the story of the Exodus, or you could look at it in terms of, doesn't live out the principles that they're supposed to be living out as a result of such, right? 1072, TJ Dem 7, Section 4, Folio 26b, line 23, C, selection 1086. There is a teaching, a man must not plow with his ox at night and hire it out by day, nor must he himself work at his own affairs at night and hire himself out by day, and he must not fast or undergo privations of his own accord, for he diminishes, by his consequent weakness, the amount of his work for his master. Our Johanan went to a place and found the school teacher was fatigued. He asked the cause. They said to him, because he fasts. The rabbi said to the man, you are forbidden to act thus. If it is forbidden to act thus as regards the work rendered to man, how much more is it forbidden as regards the work rendered to God? T.J. Dem, 7, Section 4, Folio 26b, line 23, see selection 1486. No Pentateuchal law was exempt from or did not provide a subject for rabbinic casuistry. But a sense of justice and equity informed the casuistry. Thus, as regard the law of Deuteronomy 23:24, when thou comest to thy neighbor's vineyard, then thou mayest eat grapes, thy fill at thy own pleasure, but thou shalt not put any in thy vessel, for it is said, 1073, Sefer Deuteronomy Ke, Tetze, section 266, folio 121b, finish. The worker in the vineyard may eat grapes, but not figs. If he is collecting his master's figs, he may eat figs, but not grapes. He may wait till he comes to the best fruit, and then eat. Our Eliezer B. Chisma said, he may not eat more than his day's wage. But the sages say that the words, at his own pleasure, show that he may. On the other hand, in thy vessel, is interpreted strictly, for it is said, even when he is filling his master's vessel, Sefer Deuteronomy Ke Tetze, section 266, folio 121b, finish. The phraseology used in Deuteronomy 25, section 2 and 3 is cleverly noted. 1074, Sefer Deuteronomy Ke Tetze, section 286, folio 125a. R. Hananiah B. Gamla said, before his beating the criminal is called the wicked man, but after his beating he is called thy brother. Sefer Deuteronomy Ke Tetze, section 286, folio 125a. In the Islamic world, they also have this idea that once the criminal punishment has been inflicted, that the Islamic teaching is that one's just supposed to consider them as having atoned for what they did, so, no discrimination is to be held after that point. 1075, T Bab B 5, 5, and 7, Z, page 404, line 33. A shopkeeper is not permitted to make the liquid bubble in the measure R2 bound, nor may he lean the vessel on its side where it's left out. A shopkeeper who sells oil must wipe his measures once a week. A wine seller's measures must be cleansed as soon as sediment is formed, which diminishes their capacity, and for the same reason he should not clean them with salt. T Bab B 5, 5, and 7, Z, page 404, line 33. 1076, Tunch, Nawach, section 4, folio 16b to 17a. It is forbidden to the house of Israel to rob or to snatch anything from any creature, for in all the punishments in the law, none is more grievous than that for illegitimate gain. R. Eliezer says, all the sins in the law did the generation of the flood commit, but the decree that they should be blotted out was not sealed till they put forth their hands to illegitimate gain. For it first says that the world was corrupt, Genesis 6:12, but the end of all flesh was decreed only when the earth was full of violence, Genesis 6:13. Words left out. R. Johanan says, he who robs his fellow, even a farthing, is as though he took away his life. Proverbs 1:19, Tunch, Nawach, section 4, folio 16b to 17a. 1077, Sifra 88c. You shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. Leviticus 19:11. You must not steal, even if it be done merely to annoy, or even to restore double or fourfold or fivefold. Ben Bog said, you must not steal your own property back from a thief, lest you appear to be stealing, Sifra 88c. And certainly if things are going to be multiplied as a punishment, that has to be decided by the government, not, the individual, right? 1078, Sifra Numbers Not So, section 2, folio 2a, H page 5. He who deceives or lies to man is as if he deceives or lies to God. Sifra Numbers Not So, section 2, folio 2a, H page 5. 1079, Babq, right? 94a. R. Eliezer B. Jacob said, if a man steals some wheat and makes bread from it and separates the cake, challah, according to the law of Numbers 15:19 to 21, and says the blessing over it, such a one does not bless but blasphemes. For the law of challah and the blessing, see Sephardic Prayer Book, edited by Gaster, Volume 1, page 79. Bab K, 94a. 1080, Suk 46b. R. Zera said, one must not promise to give something to a child and not give it to him, because thereby he is taught to lie. Suk 46b. 1081, Yoma 86a. What is profanation of the name? Rab said, I, a scholar, profane it if I buy meat from the butcher and do not pay him straightway. Yoma 86a. H.L.'s note, the I is emphatic in a scholar, the trifling neglect, venial, and others is culpable. H.L. 1082, Sifra 91b, Bab B 88b, Mishnah 5:11, see selection 1071. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. Now, if anybody knows the exactness of an ephah or a hin, feel free to comment, just like a se'ah and some of the others. Shall you have. Leviticus 19:36. Appoint a market inspector for this purpose. They said that the wholesale settler should cleanse his measure once in 30 days, the householder once a year. Our Simeon B. Gamaliel said, the shopkeeper must clean his measures twice a week, and wipe his weights once a week, and cleanse his scales after every weighing. This refers to moist goods, but it is not necessary for dry goods. Further, he must allow the pan of the goods to sink 1 handbreadth lower than the pan of the weights, but if he gives exact measure, then he must allow an extra overweight, 10% for wet goods and 5% for dry goods. We'll basically just be sure, right? Sifra 91b, Bab B 88b, Mishnah 511, and C, selection 1071 that we've gone over in this program.